Okay, so thanks for watching this video on your own. It's a little bit of an experiment to see how this goes. So yesterday and in the past, we've been talking about how introductions, organization, and conclusions can be awesome. And a lot of you got graded on both introduction and organization on your character trait essay. You can go and check that grade actually to see what you got on that. And since this is self-paced, you could do that now, pause the video, and then come back. That's cool. And then, so this one, hopefully you're back now. This one, for this essay, you're going to be most likely graded on craft and conclusion, but again, it just depends on what you were graded on last time. So, we've talked about all three of these, introduction, organization, conclusion. Right now, I'm going to talk about craft. So, the first thing we've already talked about is including quotes from the story. So, for including quotes from the story, we talked about you need a signal phrase. So, for example, on page 2, it states that, comma, a quote, which is actually words from the story, so this is a part from the story. Wilma practiced her exercises constantly, even when it hurt. And then a citation, so that's the last name and the page number. And then a period at the end. So double check right now. You might want to pause this video to see that you've included a quote. If you haven't, maybe you can add one right now. Great, now you're back. Okay, so the next part of this to talk about is this part right here. So throughout your essay, choose words that are specific and serious rather than vague or casual. So the first one we're going to talk about is just using language that is formal. So instead of saying something like dummy, well, you might say that in speech. With essays, you're not that informal. So you might use the word unintelligent. Hopefully you're not saying that in your essay, but I use this example because I've seen a lot of people talking about how their characters are dumb. So you can say that, but maybe unintelligent is more formal. Stuff and things is not very specific, so instead you want to specifically write about what you're talking about. And then finally, this is the big one. I don't want you to ever say again in your literary essays, I think. And you're like, what? But it is what I think. That's my opinion. Yes, true. It is your opinion. However, in a literary essay, it's different than speech because the whole purpose is for you to convince somebody about what you think is true. So to really own it and be more convincing, it's better if we actually take out the I think. So if you didn't catch what I just did literally, you're just going to go into your essay. Some people might say, I think one thing that is true in the beginning, middle, and end of the story, blah, blah, blah. You're just going to go there, you're going to delete, and that's great. If you want to check to see if you have it in the rest of the essay, this is a little tech tip. If you go up to edit, click that, scroll down till it says find and replace. If you click that, you can actually search for words and phrases in your essay. I already took out my I think, so it's not popping up with anything, but I could search for, like if I search for the, you can see I have 15 uses of the, so I can just go around and it shows me where I used the. Okay, so anyway, you can use that to look for where you say I, and all that good stuff. Okay, moving on. So you want to make sure that your language is formal rather than vague or casual. We already talked about quotes. Comparisons and similes. So just like in poetry, when we used similes to compare two things, what you're going to do for this one is you can add it in to be more persuasive. So right down here, I was talking about how the fact Wilma went through the pain, blah, 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 blah. Another example is when Wilma walked down the aisle at church. So I decided I wanted to make this stand out more and be more persuasive that this is a big deal and about how she persevered even though it was difficult. So I said, walking down the aisle, this is my simile. Walking down that aisle was not only physically difficult, but also brave, because she could have fallen down in front of everyone like a celebrity falling on national TV. This is my simile. I'm not totally thrilled with it. I could make it better, but you get the idea. I was just trying to find something I could compare to that would make this braveness stand out a little bit more, because without the simile, it doesn't stand out that much. Okay, so similes, you want to include at least one. That's 5 whole points. Okay, so if you don't do that, it's 15 out of 20. That's a C for that. So you want to make sure that you do that. Last one here is including definitions, so or describing who important characters are. Many of you talk about who your character is in the beginning paragraph in the introduction. That's great. It has to be pretty specific about the character in order for me to check or count it for explaining who important characters are. Another opportunity is to define words. So right here, my reason here was in the beginning of the story, Wilma shows never to give up by persevering. Persevering is not only a big word, it's also a very important word for this whole paragraph. It's part of my topic sentence. It's what my entire paragraph is about. So it would be really useful for me to define it. So the definition, I went up to Google and I just searched persevere, and then I looked to see what the definition was, and then I put it in here. So I said the dictionary states that persevering is to continue in the course of action even in the face of difficulty. Notice the quotation marks and the citation, going back to how we add quotes. Okay, so this is a quote that I found from the internet. So I went ahead and I put it in here, and now I can keep going back to that. So she persevered through the pain of physical therapy. That connects to this difficulty, right? That is her difficulty, is the pain. So that is the last and final thing that you can add for craft. So 4 things. Take out I think and other informal words. Add a quote to be specific. Add a simile to emphasize your point. And then add a definition to make things more specific as well. So for the rest of the day, make sure that you are working towards finishing that essay. Once you are done with that essay, I actually have more video lessons for you to do, and this is kind of fun because we're moving towards self-paced learning. So as soon as you are ready, I can show you where those next videos are.